The Long Way Home, Chapter 7, 4-Hour Life. Routine. They had all settled into a routine, or rather, the other three had settled into a routine around Jason and Vincent's shift schedule within a day or so. Jason woke up, scarfed down a simple breakfast and coffee, spent 4 hours on the bridge, sometimes alone, sometimes with company, spent 4 hours relaxing or lifting weights, or helping out in the galley with cleaning, or worked out in the weight room, and then another 4 hours on the bridge followed by 4 hours of sleep wherever he could grab it. The fact that it was a two-man shift made it awkward for everyone else, and tiring for Jason, and he supposed for Vincent too, but they managed. The routine around the two bridge officers largely centered around the kids trying to maintain a normal sleep schedule despite the 4-hour life of Vincent and Jason. Mainly, this was accomplished by finding things to do. Chandray tinkered with the tablet, Vi tidied things up, and tried to find ways to pretty the galley and the cabin she shared with Chandray, and Stowaway. Stowaway seemed to mainly just laze about. Well, maybe not laze about, maybe more keep out of everyone's way. So on the fourth day, or what Jason was pretty sure was the fourth day, after the disorienting 4-hour life had cycled a few times, Jason confronted him. "Come on, get up, and do what?" Stowaway asked grumpily. "To start with, I haven't seen you exercise. Come on, let's work out together." "You're a heavy welder. I can't go in while you use it," Stowaway scoffed. "I'll do cardio and spot you," Jason rejoined. "Up with you. It'll make you feel better." "Why are you always on my case?" "Because I give a crap," Jason said easily. "Now up." "Bullshit." Jason was surprised by how much a pang of pity hurt him, and he tried to keep it from his face as he said, "You don't even know what a bull is." "I don't need to," the Avon boy said hotly, drawing nervous glances from the girls. "Well," Jason said patiently, "a bull is a male bovine, usually. Sometimes they can refer to other animals." Stowaway flapped his wings in a clear frustration as he scoffed. "Like that has anything to do with you lying." "What makes you think that I don't care?" "Because nobody cares," Stowaway said before he realized what he'd admitted to and shrank in on himself. "Come on, just a quick half-hour workout and you'll feel better. And if I'm wrong, you get to say you told me so," Jason said with a carefully neutral tone and expression. Stowaway narrowed his eyes in affronted suspicion for a moment before muttering, Fine, just so that I can shut you up." "That's the spirit," Jason said, as he cheerily hauled Stowaway up to his talons. Once they were in the privacy of the weight room, Stowaway admitted, "I don't really know how to work out. Usually I just fly around a nice big atrium on station or in the open air of a planet." "Well, you could hold weights in your wings and claws to strengthen your wing beats," Jason started, "or you could use a treadmill or stationary bike for cardio. I kind of figured you'd know some basic lifts since you've been living shipboard for a couple of years." Stowaway narrowed his eyes and asked, "How do you know that?" Jason prodded Stowaway towards the equipment, and he meandered over to the stationary bike while Jason explained. "Well, your hiding spot was actually pretty good. I figure you've hidden in a couple passenger liners or maybe a hauler or two before. That, and you said that you were on a ship before. The hearts longed to be brought close." "I did say that," Stowaway said ruefully, as he adjusted the saddle for his gangly frame and clambered atop to begin pedaling. Jason mounted the treadmill and said, "I owe you an apology, by the way." "For what? Being annoying?" "Nah, I figure I'm lovably insistent. For your nickname. I'm sorry. I didn't think up a better one. I like it better than my real name. Still, I should have done." "You're not what I expected," Stowaway interrupted suddenly. "What I expected from a family of heroes." The gentle thud-thud of Jason's careful low-G lope and the soft whirring of the stationary bike's internals joined the ever-present hum of the long-way systems filled the silence between them as it stretched into long seconds. Jason spoke into that silence. "I told you once. I'm just a kid." "Jason," Stowaway asked, his voice betraying this rare openness, "what do you think a hero is?" I know I don't want to be one. I just want to do my bit." "But if your bit is to be one?" Jason didn't have an answer for that. "Can I ask you a different question?" Stowaway ventured. "I'll do my best to answer," Jason said with a forced grin. "Are Sneaky and the report the same person?" "Aye, they are, but you could get that from any decent history book. What's your real question?" Stowaway's pedaling slowed as the gears in his mind turned until he said, "Why do you think that Sneaky is a better nickname?" "You remember that? Well, it's simple. It's the kind of nickname a person might get. And it's funny." 4-hour life was bullshit. Vincent couldn't get enough sleep. The meal times all felt off, and there wasn't any time to drink. Bullshit. The worst part was he didn't have a better idea. He was going through too much coffee, and his headache wouldn't go away. He was nearly desperate enough to waste some of his hoarded medical supplies to quiet the throbbing pain in the base of his skull. The long-way system's soothing hum was a roar in his ears as he got up. The kids, except for the George boy, sometimes sleeping, sometimes working, sometimes watching old movies in the galley, all conjured anguishing images of Kel. The George kid was holding up half the sky, so he couldn't stack his half. The George kid was probably holding up more than half the sky, since for some reason Stowaway suddenly went from being aloof and quiet to helping the girls during the times he tried to catch fleeting rest. He was planning on waking the George kid up when they were a day out to see if they could find a way to get the time for real sleep. Maybe his cousin could stand to take just one double shift so one of them could get a full 8 hours. One mind-numbing blur of uncounted cycles of 4 hours life and a proposal later, and the George boy was turning his cousin and asking, "Do you think you can do it?" "But," she answered slowly, haltingly, But I don't have any hours in the sim." "If we translate into real space where skilled piloting would be needed, we'd be pasted anyway," Vincent rumbled, barely able to keep a pained edge out of his voice. Hopefully able to keep the pained edge out of his voice. The George kid shot him a reproachful glance before returning his gaze to his cousin, while he said, "Your job would be to get us to an all-stop and come to wake one of us. That's all, Tran. If you don't think that you can do it, I can pull a triple and get Mr. Vincent some sleep." "You're not looking so hot either, kid," Vincent nearly snapped. "I don't know what's at that system, and I might need my co-pilot." "Aye, mister, that's true," the kid said, with a testy edge to his voice. That must have come out more harshly than Vincent had intended. Trandre drummed the fingers on one hand on the table, clasped two others together beneath the table, and reached for her cousin with the another before she barely whispered, "Just once. And just after that, you'll promise to run Sims and co-pilot joke for me." "Child, if you want to turn this 4 on, 4 off into a 4 on, 8 off, or 4 on, then I'll love you forever." The George boy made eyes to go wide and said with mock scandal, "You don't love her already?" "I'll love you more than I already do, forever," Vincent sighed wearily, desperately. "Aye," she breathed. Then in a hushed whisper, she more strongly told them, I can do it," Trandre said. "But you have to promise that you aren't going to do this to yourselves again." "Promise," Vincent and George boy said in unison. "Mr. Vincent, I think you ought to take something for a headache and get to bed now," the George boy suggested softly. "I'm not trying to tell you what to do on your own ship, but you don't look too good. If I pull the first double, then Tran does, that should give you more time to recover." "We might need those pills later," Vincent mumbled as he stood and took a wobbly step towards his bedroom. He didn't look back. Once in his room with the door shut behind him, he ignored the haggard, broken-down, beaten man in the reflection and plucked a bottle of whiskey from his pliers in his left hand, and his rosary in his right. He looked at the worn wooden crudely carved crucifix and took a small sip of the bottle. He ran his thumb over where the halting knife marks once were, and began softly, "I believe in God, the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth, and in Jesus Christ, his only Son, our Lord." End of story. I'd greatly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Casper Arnholt, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.